So we are talking about the meeting point of science and spirituality. And there was at one point of time an effort to do so. And the meeting point is actually when we get into the idea of other worlds. This is the confluence whereby we can understand physical world, material universe, and the spirit. They meet together, mix and merge in the conception of the other worlds. In other words, if science has to really reach towards understanding spirituality, it must, and it's not just understanding, but influencing material life, it must get rid of, or rather bring it within it, certain assumptions or conceptions. So one of its assumptions is material world is the only reality. This, if you make this assumption, then one will miss out on a whole lot of data, whole lot of things that are taking place which we don't understand simply because we have made this assumption that material reality is the only reality. And it's illogical actually. It's so this one part. Second, the way we experience whatever we call as reality or the material world is limited by our sensory capacity. This simple, again, plain logic. We don't experience reality as it is. We perceive it as it is presented to us by the senses. Again, simple logic. If our senses enlarge in their scope, we'll probably perceive things. For example, right now we cannot perceive thoughts. We cannot perceive feelings. We draw conclusions based on external actions. If there was a mechanism or an evolution through which we could see the thoughts and feelings, the mother would speak of this sometime. At one time she says, oh, she speaks about opinions like those, little, we used to play like children, those airplanes made out of paper, and how they would come and strike people. She would send questions. She could see the thoughts, not just thought reading, see the thoughts, feelings. All these can be seen through a development of the senses. Then the whole world that appears to us appears very different. It's very simple. Science has not even started exploring it, though it is entering into it through a back door. And what is the back door? It kept digging into matter. No, matter is the sole reality, matter is the sole reality, till it entered a point where matter itself began to vanish. So it started with gaseous, liquid, and the solid states of matter. Then as it started entering, it discovered different world altogether. And just to cut a long story short, one of the things which we commonly use in our all LED and television, the plasma state, ionized state of matter. Mother speaks about it. There is another state of matter which is called, it's not a state the way we understand, it's called a state of matter. And simply mathematical, Bose-Einstein quotient equation, or whatever it is. It's just mathematically you have to say that there is a state of matter. Now people also speak about dark matter, because they cannot explain this material world only on the basis of matter as we know and experience it. So science has begun to enter somewhere, as Mother said, in the occult realms. But it doesn't know what it means, how to use it. Also there is the string theory that they are probably not 3 or 4 but 11 dimensions. Again, all this is still in the realm of search and discovery, because scientific instruments are very limited, very, very limited when it comes to exploring the other domains. But we can take a simpler example in our own life, and that explains why often people ask why matter had to be made and why this gross material. Now see, when we see a dream, what happens? There are images. Even if we take that the brain is throwing images, how are we having the images? And what about conscious imagination? There are images. Now these images are in the dream real. Sometimes they are so real, not all the dream, that supposing somebody touches in the dream, touch particularly, You can, when you wake up, you almost remember that there was a touch. Sometimes we can experience these things, even some people at the Samadhi have, oh, I felt as if the mother touched me. But it must be my imagination. Come on. In that case, this is also imagination that you are standing here, because from one perspective, if you take the illusionist theory, so there are experiences of subtle senses. There are people who suddenly, sometimes Sri Aurobindo's presence through a lotus fragrance. These are real things. Of course, we see in the dream, and what is it? Is it real or unreal? In the dream, it's very, very real. And sometimes there are even dreams which are teleological dreams, which tell us about the future. I'm sure somebody in life would have had dreams which were indicative of the future. Sometimes of things going on in your own life, they are projected as images. So what are these images? Another example. This is about images. What about our thought? How do we become aware of a thought? See, there is something so interesting. If you ask someone, what were you thinking? Now the person will make a sentence. I was thinking how this food, I was actually cooking food, and I was thinking how this food is cooked, and I had a conversation with someone in the dream. Or even otherwise, in the head. So, how are we conscious of these thoughts? But the problem is there. The problem is that dreams are dreams. They just vanish, sometime without a trace. It's almost like a WhatsApp image. You can do everything with the WhatsApp image. WhatsApp, you can see and you can hear. You cannot smell. But very soon, sooner or later, we'll have a possibility of smell. So when we have a possibility of smell, we'll also have a possibility of taste, because they are connected. But what we cannot do is touch. You can do everything. Of course, you can touch the screen. You cannot get the concrete sense of touch. This is what earthly matter brings. It brings a completeness which no dream image, nothing can really fulfill. Unless, as I said, in the subtle physical, one experiences the touch, especially mother's touch or Sri Aurobindo's touch, which is so concrete. That's something which cannot be forgotten ever. So there is a whole mass of phenomena which we don't take into cognizance. In psychiatry, we know hallucination, we just declare it, which unfortunately, because of our conditioning that material reality is the only reality, we disregard it or say, oh, this is imagination, hallucination, illusion, dreams are dreams. But they are real contacts in many ways. Not that all dreams are reality, but yes, very often we make real contact with real beings. Either in dreams, sometimes even when we imagine, there is a faculty called as truth imagination, where one is imagining, but this imagination is cast from the realm of truth and it enters the mind as an imagination. Sri Aurobindo speaks of this faculty, where imagination gets transformed into truth imagination. So first, science has to explore, take into account this whole lot of phenomena. So sometimes nowadays we are going through a strange process, because quite a few people have started it. There was a time when to speak about either your inner experiences or subtle things was not regarded as good. It's not good from an individual point of view. But at the same time, if you see the Vedas, they are a document where people have spoken all about their experiences. Nilarudra Upanishad, for example, it's simply like Sri Aurobindo's poem Apocalypse. I saw Shiva. That's it. It describes. So now there is a tendency, there are people who are beginning to document these things, which is important. I have seen people have dream communications, so many of those who have gone beyond, and they are so real. Even before departure, I've had experience of a boy knocking at the door, and mother wakes up suddenly, and the boy is sitting there and saying, 19-year-old boy, oh, they are coming to take me, they are coming to take me. And the mother says, nothing will happen. And she doesn't know what's happening actually. And then she wakes up with a palpitation in the heart. She doesn't know what has happened. At that point of time, the boy had died of an accident. Where? In Australia. This lady is in India. She actually heard the footsteps and the boy enter. Now, at that point of time, she had no idea that this is actually a communication. Really, he had come. And there are other dreams where there is a bye-bye, where there is a sense that, no, I am going. Don't grieve over me. Bye-bye. All these, whole mass of phenomena. So, this is where the chapter, the ascending series of substance. So, how do we see? For instance, in the dream, if we see Shri Krishna, Sri Aurobindo, the mother, or much lesser deities, Durga, or some beings. So, we are seeing, perceiving. What is the sense that is perceiving is question number one. And since there is not just name but also rupa, form, what is the substance from which this form is made? There has to be something. It can't be magic. This is the problem. We have been, oh, this is magic. I just saw a dream. There has to be some substance out of which this form was made. Now, this is where the whole series comes in. The reason why we cannot understand these two, spirit in matter is because we have demolished all the intermediary grades. Second, though matter has inertia, it has ignorance, it has division, and therefore is the root cause of all the imperfection and suffering we experience. But one thing that the physical matter as we experience provides is touch, concrete sense of touch. And when we see the five senses, which correspond to the five elements, so earth is that touch which you can concretely feel. And see, this sense completes everything. One of the first, that's why you see animals, through licking, they transfer, they understand, through touch, they understand. When animals, when mother and child come in contact, how they understand through touch and also smell. That's how they come in contact. So this touch gives the sense of solidity. Now, why this is required? Now, once we have the sense of solidity, the mind can use this image concretely and then it can work upon it. So, for example, now we have visions of Sri Aurobindo and the mother. But imagine, as Sri Aurobindo says, one single physical touch of the mother cannot be replaced by 1,000 subjective experiences. That is unique. So the divine himself understands the necessity and therefore he takes a material body. So though gross yet concrete, that's why. But from this, the journey starts through a series of substance and grades. And if we go by and large, there are several grades, but if we go, keep the Puranic terminology and the Vedic terminology, then there are different domains where there are different time-space continuum. This also we experience. Actually, this afternoon, I had just a quick nap. I got up and realized, okay, maybe 5 minutes, I'll just stretch. And I slipped into a dream, quite a long dream. And when I woke up, I thought, oh, so much time must have passed. And I said, no, it's just about 5-6 minutes, just the time. So many of us have experienced this, I'm sure. There's a whole story in one of the Upanishads about it. So there are different time-space continuum. This is what is meant by Brahma's one day is equals to so many thousand years. And it is this that has led to so many miscalculations about the period of Kali Yuga. People astronomical figures simply because Somebody has defined a kalpa in a certain way and manvantar in a certain way. So based on that, all the calculations, it's astronomical. 4,32,000 years of Kali Yuga God. God has to be really monstrous to allow. It's simply because of this miscalculation. But there are different time-space domains. So this one. There are different energies. When we come in contact with people, it's not just body, but with their, not just physical energy, the vital energies we come in contact with. There's some who can just drag away all your energy after you meet them and come back and say, oh my God, I'm feeling so tired. There are others whom you meet and come back so energetic. How does this happen? Because there is an energy body, there is a vital body with its own constitution, its own substance. Similarly, there are mental energies, mental worlds. So in the mental world, the substance is very different. The time-space continuum is very different. In the mental world, it's so easy. You can just think of anything, anywhere, anybody, and you're right there. So we take these things for granted. How does thought travel? It is traveling traveling at a speed greater than light. After all, it is traveling. It's not magic. So I want to think of something on the other part of the globe and I already have it. So the substance of the mental world responds to thought. It's meant to be like that. Their matter, vital world, higher spiritual, they are all subordinated. It obeys the mind and their mind is very powerful. The substance of the vital world responds to the vital forces. It is there to fulfill your desire and the vital world immediately takes it and transmits all around on the, it's like a broadcast group. I desire, and where all it will go, catch God knows whom, suddenly it will come because it's the nature of the vital world. Shobinda describes very interestingly the paradise of the life gods. They describes how there is something even called as a pure desire which is not strained by the material world. But there physical is subordinated, mind is subordinated. It obeys the law of desire and emotions. They will travel there. That's how emotions can actually contact people. It's not a joke. We don't know how to formulate it. Feelings can reach. But in the material world, physical world, vital, mind, spiritual is subordinated. You have to follow our law. So we may think, because if that was not so, as one of the Upanishads says, I could just think I am fine and I'll be cured instantly. It doesn't happen. Material world says, no sir, that's all in your thought. So one has to build a bridge. That's what Mother says when she speaks about building bridges between the different domains. Similarly, vital, it may feel one way, but the body may not respond because that's how the domains are arranged. So we have these three lower worlds. Beyond is the supramental substance. The Mother describes of an experience of a comet. And then she says, it was so funny. I saw this young being who came out, who was spreading all over like gold, this fine supramental substance. She speaks about supramental substance. Shobindu describes the supramental substance when he asked, what do you mean by substance? So he says, oh, it has a density which is, it's harder than diamond, but it is very soft. Two seemingly opposite qualities are combined. It's very plastic. Both things together, because supermind is about that. The Mother speaks about the richness of the supramental substance. Even the psychic substance, it has a substance. Because it's not just all airy-fairy. So if you come in contact with the psychic substance, automatically it carries a sweetness and a warmth in it. That's why wherever this psychic substance is active, beings of other worlds want to come. because they feel that psychic contact and the warmth and sweetness it gives automatically. It gives a joy. If you touch this substance, it gives joy. Even in the human body, it fills, and it can actually fill the limbs. And finally, we have Ananda. The substance of Ananda is the Soma, wine, for which the human jar has been made, ultimately, so that it can be filled with the wine of the divine wine of Ananda. But before we reach the divine wine of Ananda, let's turn to the mother's wine, which life divine is. So this is the ascending series of substance, and we have to get a hold of it. Here is the key to the change. So we'll just read few passages. Say, for example, on page 267, Shobinda says, it starts from the last line on 266. Substance passes into the material status in order that it may present to the consciousness which has to deal with it durable, firmly seizable images on which the mind can rest and base its operations, and which the life can handle with at least a relative surety of permanence in the form upon which it works. See, original substance is the spirit. But it slowly, you see, divine takes a human form. Why does he take a human form? So that we can seize him by the eyes, touch him with the hands, we can hear his voice. So through all this, now there is an image on which we can fix our mind upon. So it becomes so simple. So it is the original substance which assumes a human form. Therefore, too, touch or contact is for us the essential basis of sense. All other physical senses, taste, smell, hearing, sight, are based upon a series of more and more subtle and indirect contacts between the percipient and the perceived. I have often seen in people who are departing, the sense of touch is actually the last to go. And there are researches where they have seen that, well, even when a person is in coma, if you go and hold the hand, brain areas respond. Person is completely comatose. And we know, just holding the hand, it's the ultimate security. You say anything, but just holding, it gives the sense of a solidity and compactness. So matter, therefore, is the last stage known to us in the progress of pure substance towards a basis of cosmic relations. So it's the last, but there are many steps through which the original substance passes. It's still there, original, but it's something like Ganga. What is the original substance of Ganga? It is in Vishnu's heart. You can't reach out. So she comes out of the heart. Where does she go? In Brahma's Kamandalu. From Brahma's Kamandalu, Ganga comes down and is in Shiva's Jata. Receives everybody's touch. After that, it comes to Gangotri. Now it has become tangible Ganga. Then it comes down and flows all the way to Ganga Sagar. It becomes dirty outwardly. But still it carries within itself the purifying capacity. Because its origin is the heart of Vishnu. So if you want to contact Ganga directly, what is the heart of Vishnu? Lakshmi, love, harmony, beauty. It's a great purifying force. Love is a great purifying force. People are ready to do so many things in love, change their nature completely. I mean, people have done, they can't sustain it because to sustain the flame of love is so difficult. So she is the great purifying force even when she becomes so material. That's the way India has understood. There is a science which says, oh, it is dirty, so many germs, this, that. He said, today I was hearing. He said, the water quality in Kumbh is 10 times more PPS than should ordinarily be. I said then it's a real miracle because there should have been an outbreak of cholera or typhoid or something. Strange, it didn't take place. Because when people take a bath, they take it that's the original substance which has come down. I mean, they don't think that way, but it's understood that Ganga is not just this material form. It's a big saving grace, and there is a subtle truth in it. Science dismisses it. No, it's their faith. It's not just about faith. It's that substance which comes down. Ganges water has a much greater capacity to resist the organism. Now there is an actual study than other rivers. So this is the last stage. The same substance passes through. That's how God becomes human. He becomes this creation. Then we have, so what is the difference in these two extremes? Spiritual substance, what is its nature? So Shobinda describes, and if there is, as there must be in the nature of things, an ascending series in the scale of substance from matter to spirit, it must be marked by a progressive diminution of these capacities most characteristic of the physical principle and a progressive increase of the opposite characteristic, which will lead us to the formula of pure spiritual self-existence. So what is the quality of the spiritual substance? It's luminous. It's plastic. Spirit is self-luminous. And it has plasticity. You can't injure it. It's beyond that. Nanam chiddanti shastrani. See what a profound scientific truth. It's not just a figurative way of saying. Spirit substance. Nanam chiddanti shastrani. Nanam dahati pavakam. It's because it's the origin of all the elements. No elements can do any harm to it. Nothing in creation can harm it, hurt it, pierce through it. Because it's that pure substance. In the material world, plasticity is lost, becomes rigid. Luminosity is lost, it casts shadow. It is prone and subject to all the elemental energies. So this is the difference. So this is to say that they must be marked by less and less bondage to the form, more and more subtlety and flexibility of substance and force, more and more interfusion, interpenetration, power of assimilation, power of interchange, power of variation, transmutation, unification. So as man evolves, automatically these subtle ways of being become active. People can reach out heart to heart at long distances. But a crude person, even right there, physically available, there will be nothing. Because you are encased in matter. These are facts of everyday life, but we don't take it into cognizance because we just take it that this simply all imagination. So we can imagine thinking of the divine, what it can create. Thought is capable of actually reaching. If we intensify, it has a form, it has a substance, it can fly. Shobinda describes it as a paraclete. So it can actually fly like a bird and reach the feet of the divine. We may not know, we are only thinking. But just imagine a little sparrow or a little swan reaches the feet of the divine. And the divine simply gazes or caresses and it comes back into the mind. Now what has happened? A thought that has been touched by the substance of the Lord enters into the brain. It's extremely powerful something. It begins its work because that's its nature. It's immortal. On page 268. These considerations become of great importance when we consider the possible relation between the divine life and the divine mind of the perfected human soul and the very gross and seemingly undivine body or formula of physical being in which we actually dwell. So now he is opening doors to so many possibilities. Not just ultimate divine body is the final. But what are the other possibilities? They are not less attractive. I mean, if I may use the word. So one of them is that we have an arrangement between our senses and the material world, which we think is the ultimate. And we act according to that. So, page 268, last paragraph, there, this about 7-8 lines above. There are superior states, there are higher worlds, and if the law of these can be any progress of man, not supramental, he is only talking of within the realm of the cosmic consciousness. And if the law of these can by any progress of man and by any liberation of our substance from its present imperfections be imposed on this sensible form and instrument of a being, then there may be even here a physical working of divine mind and sense, a physical working of divine life in the human frame, and even the evolution upon earth of something that we may call a divinely human body. Now it is not talking of divine body. A human body which is responsive to the divine forces, which is an instrument of the divine. Meaning thereby there are organs which will begin to respond to the divine energy, and many things it will change. For example, I know one of the, I think it was Chandradeep who had to send the letters, segregate the letters. So he had developed that so much that just by touch, when the letters would come, he'll say, put it, this goes there, this goes here, this goes, he's not looking at it. By the touch, he could sense. In the dining room, just you pick up, mother speaks about it. There are hidden senses, hidden possibilities that can evolve, change the relation. I know of someone, a neurologist who had corona, and she would go around New York. I won't wear a mask, devotee of Mother and Sri Aurobindo. People, all kinds of things. And then finally one day she had a question. They are all talking about corona. What is it actually? And that night she fell seriously ill, very seriously ill. Then in that state she says, okay, if this is the end of my life, it's okay. So she abandons herself to Mother and Sri Aurobindo. Whatever you wish. This is the most sensible thing to do actually. Because when you say, I am yours, then the Lord, okay, no option left for him. When it is, doctor, but Lord, aap bhi dekh lena. Just take a look, huh? But basically, abandon. Then she sees Sri Aurobindo coming to her coming in that room on a strange creature. And that creature on whom he is sitting has a tail. And she's seeing swarms of organisms, but she doesn't know, like mosquitoes, all elemental energies one sees as mosquitoes in the dream world. And he is with his tail, with the tail of the creature, not his tail, it's like whipping them away. All of them are being whipped away, and after some time everything clears. And then he says, everything is clear now, and goes. And she is completely fine. This is a doctor's experience, a neurologist. It's not some Andhavishwasi log, not an Andhavishwasi Indian, American doctor. America has to be correct, no? So many experiences of this kind people have. But this is chance. We don't even take them into cognizance. How does it happen? The other world has intervened. The forces of the other world. And Mother speaks about it in Fate and Determinism. She gives a very interesting example. She says how fate can be changed. She says, supposing I drop something from the hand here. Ordinarily, if you ask what will happen to it, you will say, well, it will land on the floor. Now, when dropping, I put my other hand and hold it. Now, destiny has changed. Because something has intervened and changed the course of things. So, this higher levels, changing the course of things, is a science. It may look like a miracle. Of course, you shouldn't make a superstition always everything, because there are many factors. Sri Aurobindo speaks about yoga force working is a real thing, and he says, I have based it on thousands and thousands of experiences day and night, otherwise I would not write about it. that is it really something concrete or is it all a hallucination and imagination? He says, very concrete. And then he says, why it doesn't always succeed? He says, it's like Agni. Agni has a power to burn. But it does not burn everything. It requires certain, and in certain conditions, it will not even burn what it is meant to burn. So there are conditions required. Only the supermind can override all conditions. But even to hold the supramental, the body has to be ready. If it touches, body will be shattered. So the whole logic of the yoga, prepare your body, prepare your mind to receive. It is omnipotence, omniscience. But now here comes the problem. The body will be shattered. This gross substance will be blown to pieces. Mother says divine love is the power of transformation. But she says, as Sri Aurobindo says, you must be little bit ready for the divine love. Otherwise you will go to blazes. It's so powerful. So this explains the whole logic, intervention of the other worlds. It may look like miracles. Somebody who suddenly passes by has a thought, he should be cured. And that point of time, he is open to the Divine Mother, to in whatever way to the divine consciousness, and he feels inspired and speaks. And it works out. But the problem comes when you begin to claim the power which is used to you. When you begin to say, I will do magic cures, open a shop of miracle doing, and have those hallelujah programs going around, and charge money, makes it worse. Then there is a problem because you are misusing a power which is meant to use you and not, you can't claim that always I'll do this and always it will happen. So there is the difference. That's where ego and all this come in. But there are other worlds and their interventions, and if we can become conscious of all these energies, all these forces, powers, ways of knowing, sensory contact, how things are going to change. There are so many examples, so many. In my own life, literally materialization of a human being. And agarbattis. I have spoken about this experience different places, so I will not repeat it. So amazing that they can, because once you have the hang of it, the original substance, you can mold any substance. And Sri Aurobindo speaks of that. He speaks of that substance is very plastic. But they don't do it because there is a natural course of evolution. You can't start doing that kind of thing. Then you won't have evolution, but automatons. Sri Aurobindo says, then you are just doing magic. And you can do similarly miracles at a vital plane, which Mother and Sri Aurobindo would not want. Because he says, I have seen if you do it on the vital plane, now the gods of the vital plane, for example, they can materialize certain things. And they can give you those things. The problem is, he says, you have to give a justification to many kinds of forces of falsehood, because vital is a mixed domain. It's a domain of ignorance. So they would not use that kind of domain. So wherever there are people who are going and coming back with miracles cure, it's a whole science, and I'm just resisting the temptation to go into it because it's a whole subject for a whole workshop, how these forces work. Suffice to know, on page 269, so he's already told two possibilities. Divinely human body, where the divine is using the human body. And when he does it, there are extraordinary possibilities. Arjun realizes it much later. That because he became an instrument of the divine, he was doing things which were so seemingly impossible. The chariot itself would have gone to fire long back. But the other is the divine body. So first is the divinely human body through a release of these higher states. Body is human. That's what later on Mother speaks of as the Superman. The body is human, but the consciousness is transmitted. Then the Superman will find the way to the supramental being. That's the next step, which Sri Aurobindo said, it's the last thing and it takes long time. So we are in a laboratory, divine laboratory, and he is working upon us. So that's something wonderful. We have to just allow ourselves to be worked upon. So he says, even within the formula of the physical cosmos, 269, there is an ascending series in the scale of matter within the formula of the cosmos. What she is bringing is something new, beyond the cosmic, thus far cosmic manifestation. So that's why gods are so plastic. Plastic in the sense they can change their appearances. They can suit the appearance in the mind of the devotee and take that appearance. That is what the invaders didn't understand. They destroyed physical idols. Look how this works. The Babri Masjid. They destroyed the idol, they destroyed the temple or whatever the place. What they couldn't destroy was the image in the mind. And there were devotees who carried that image. They went there, stood there, worshipped. Tulsidas even writes a very painful experience when he sees all this happening. Now, this image in the mental world continued to remain 500 years. Eventually, it precipitates itself again, taking a new form. This is how the mental images work. They're very powerful. And when they become collective, they can do anything. So, this is the whole logic. Even in Baji Prabhu, we see the same experience. How 20 people or 50 people are holding, 50 people are holding the Rangana pass against 20,000 army of Pathans, Rajputs and Afghans. 20,000 versus 50. And for 2-3 hours, Baji Prabhu, just with about 20, then 10, then 3, it seems impossible. Now at the end, the truth is shown. What was happening to Baji Prabhu? How could he do all this? When somebody says that, well, all the lances are piercing, it's an amazing Baji Prabhu, it can make a dead person come alive. I mean, all these movies, Shava and all this will pale. And I can tell you when you read just Baji Prabhu. So, then toward the end, he just says, tell me, is Shivaji coming or not? He's somehow keeping himself alive. So they say, I hear the drum beats and I hear I can see the dust. Then Baji sees the goddess come out of him. Shivendra describes the goddess who guards India and her destiny till the end. It gives you goosebumps. You can't have it in the movie. It says that he saw Bhavani, and as she leaves him, then the last shot comes and Baji falls on the ground. So you see, Bhavani is using his body, and it doesn't matter what wounds, what going to happen. Same way Bhishma lies on the Sarshaya because of a higher plane of consciousness taking care of the physical. All these are not transformation. Like the yogi or the Narmada Brahmanand who lived for 200 years plus. So you have a higher plane of consciousness which uses the body, just it will stay alive. That's it. So many possibilities which we are yet to discover. And these are not the divine body which Sri Aurobindo is speaking of, which is the culmination. What then is there between this material substance and that pure substance? For we do not leap from the one to the other. We do not pass at once from the inconscient to absolute consciousness. So he speaks about the greats, we have already described them. So the principle of material world is, mind is powerful, but here you have to obey the material world. It's like if you go to America, there you see that many Indians, they don't mind throwing things in India. And they go to Singapore, though they have a little India where you get a feel, or to London, they don't do it. The law is different. You have to just obey the law. So you have to have laws. So material world has its own laws. It doesn't act arbitrarily that, oh, my mind is very powerful. I'm thinking immediately. So what should the mind do? If you have a powerful mind, send it on an errand to the Lord. One can do it with the mental thought. Try it. It's possible. Because mind, if there is a powerful mind, it can eventually impose and prolong life. All these are many examples. I know of a few where people could prolong life simply by the mental will or the vital will. Baba Amte is one example. But we leave that aside. The simplest way is let the mind go as an errand. Lord, I am in distress. Now what you have done, the thought which is so intense, powerful, has reached the ultimate seat of power. And then stay in a state of surrender and abandon. Let him do whatever he wants to do with the body. So these are all possibilities on the way. So he describes all these mental world and Brahmalok, Golok, where things operate very differently. And finally, he says, raises the question on page 272. But how does this ascending series affect the possibilities of a material existence? So, okay, fine, there are Brahmalok, there is mental worlds, there are vital worlds. How does it affect? If they are compartmentalized, there will be no effect. But they are like waves melting and merging into each other. There is one unbroken continuity. It's like a train. So whatever happens in one coach, if it suddenly stops or it accelerates, all other coaches are influenced. So world is one uninterrupted, interconnected reality. Once we have this, then yes, what happens in the other worlds will affect the material world. Also vice versa. There is very interesting story in one of the Puranas where there is an Asura, all kinds of impossible Asura, Durgamasur. So he cannot be killed by any of the gods. All of them underestimate the power of women. So only gods. He says, none of the Trinity should be able to kill him. He doesn't know that there is Shakti. So, anyways, so this fellow, because of his fear, people stop doing yajna. So now it is the task of the gods to conquer the asuras, but they cannot, they go back defeated. So when Narad says, why are you guys so afraid? He says, what can we do? Because yajna offerings have stopped. We have become weak. Just imagine. But there is a constant interchange. That's how the Vedic. And that's why, you see, these ideas, narratives, ideologies have such an impact. Because what they are doing, they are touching the minds, using the mental substance to propagate a certain line of thought. I'm not saying good or bad or what kind of ideology, that's a whole subject. But they are influencing the minds. Now AI, powerfully influencing the thought structures. And thought is the mediator between the higher spiritual and the physical world. So this is the battle going on now at the level of the thought. The second thing, it's not just interconnected, which he says, because it's one reality ultimately. Wherever there is one principle, all the others are involved in it. Wherever there is matter, there is life involved. That's why evolution is taking place. Wherever there is life, there is mind involved. That's why it throws up mind. Wherever there is mind, supermind is involved. That's why it will emerge. And wherever it is there, divine. So in each element of matter, there is the full, all the grades and the divine himself. That's what is meant by the great saying, whatever is in the Brahmand is in the Pind. Pind is matter, material body. Whatever is in the universe, all the universes is there in the material body. So it's just that it is involved, but you can make it active. Like, to give one last example with which you can stop. The same dust that we think is useless, see its possibility. Dust, no, we use it, dust. Put the dust below the Lord's feet. See how people will carry it. One of my first feelings when I went to playground, mother has put her feet, let me eat it. Because it's not dust anymore. Okay, this may be faith. Look at science. It explored dust, silicon. It discovered what possibilities. Chips. Dust, I am saying figuratively. Same essential chemical. Look at the possibilities in carbon. Carbon is the base. But carbon, otherwise, is just an element. But carbon is the basis of life. It becomes the basis of life. All evolution. Something is involved as a possibility, you bring it out. And after a period of time, adapt it to whatever material substance. And you will have the interchange. Mother once interacted with a computer. One of the first computers which was brought here. I think it was Frank Mathur. He was sharing this incidents with me. He said, when I took it to the mother, all enthusiastic, mother wanted to see it. So it stopped working. So he tried and he's feeling very embarrassed. So he's trying, nervous. Then mother smiled and said, don't worry, it will work now. So it started working. So what happened? I was just seeing whether the machine is responsive to thought or not. Machine is responsive to thought or not. So it's a whole super science which we are waiting for. So it's a long way. So all these ideas, science and spirituality is one hodgepodge. We are still far from it. Okay, we'll stop here. Start again after 10 minutes of break.